Welcome to the Better Business Podcast. My name is Cliff. This is my lovely wife, Sydney. And today we are going to discuss budgeting.
Dun, dun, dun.
It is not fun, but it is a necessity. And we have found it to absolutely be probably the second most helpful thing in our business ventures,
Yes.
in our personal lives.
Yeah. Especially because we failed a lot financially and we had to ask a lot of people for help, which was hard for me. And I'm sure for you too, but it just didn't feel right. Like, for example, when our water heater went out
Yes.
and we had to ask for help,
Yep.
that was so hard.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely a tough one. Well, it was nice to be able to pay that back, which took budgeting for us to be able to get that money kind of built up to pay back. So it was nice having people around us to help us in those situations like that, like the real estate too, getting help from my folks on what we did there when we had to go out and do that stuff. That was it wasn't a great feeling, not proud of it, but it was nice to get that help.
Yeah.
So, and if it wasn't for the budgeting we've done, we would have needed even more help or not even be in a positions that we are in, that, we're obviously building up all of our funds, our emergency funds. We're able to take on business things that we're doing, and we can kind of buy nice things, things we can need periodically. And that's all because of budgeting.
Yeah. Yeah. It all started with our personal budgeting in a way, and then we were able to flow it into our businesses. But for us, like, we went to college, so we had a lot of debt.
Right away. Yep, right. I think right away we both, I had a master year, so I had an extra year on top of that too. So
yeah,
we had the same amount, and then mine was an extra year, which made it even a little bit worse.
yeah. Granted, like, while we're doing this, it's been in forbearance. So it's made it easier doing businesses for us, because we also didn't want to invest in stocks, because once we invested in stocks, everything tanked and we lost
a good lump sum,
good chunk that we were supposed to pay off something, and we ended up not getting to pay it off because we lost all that money.
Yeah.
So we realized, like, oh, we should actually get into business and see if that will generate side income in a way on top of what our personal like W-2 job made for us.
Wage income.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And I think it does kind of stem from like a little context of what we're putting in here is we didn't start budgeting until we wanted to do a business. And it was more of was it necessity breeds innovation type of thing.
Yeah.
We didn't have a budget until you started BennerStride.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of just, I mean, we were fresh out of college. I got a job instantly at like a firm, so we had a good amount coming in, and you got a job, and you had a good amount coming in as well, and we were like,
we just blew the money in a way.
We did. I mean, we never had that type of funding coming in before. In college, I know I watched every paycheck go out, because growing up, it was always like budgeting was just making sure you had enough money in your checking account to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And it was never like saving for the future. Like growing up was never.
And that was something different between us, because I saved well, the main reason I saved is I still worked while I was in college. And essentially that money was for food.
Yeah.
Because my first year, I at least had a meal income. The second year, I didn't have a meal income, so I had to make all the food. And that meant I had to get a job, because no one's going to give me food for money at that point. So I did work. And I also, had like a full set of classes. Like I think the max was 21
I think so.
credits. And that was my semester.
Hmm.
So I went to school, I went to work, and then I didn't have time to play fun,
Hmm.
essentially. So I was able to save because of it. And that was like that definitely helps because I had to get a personal loan on top of my student loan to help pay for classes.
Yep.
And once once we got out and um I think we decided, because I think we were married at that time, that we decided we both were making income. I had enough saved to pay off at least my private loan.
Yeah.
And so we just instantly did that.
Yes. That I think the amount was like, I mean, it
It
was
was
like,
about 10.
yeah, I think it was like $200 a month, and that was kind of a good amount. I mean, it'd still be a good amount to have extra right now for us. So
Yeah.
looking back at it, it was like I think we did make a good decision on that part. It left us a little cash strapped, but we
Yeah.
had, you know, we moved here from where we went to college and where we used to live to
Hmm.
more opportunity, and my job was very steady and your job was very steady as well as there was a lot of opportunity.
With I felt like with my job, I didn't have the steadiness
No.
because, for example, when I got injured,
Yes.
I couldn't work.
That was the only problem, was yours was hourly, and so when you weren't working you weren't making money,
Hmm.
and mine was salary where I didn't have, when I didn't work I still made money. So if
Yeah.
I got sick and I couldn't work, I still made the money. That was definitely a huge difference.
Yeah. And then when we got further to the point where like I wasn't happy in my job, you weren't happy having me in my job,
Yeah.
our marriage was taking a hit on it.
Weird. That was just within 1 year being married too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally the first year. They always say the first year is
The
the
hardest.
hardest, and it was actually true, like
Hmm.
for us,
Very hard.
especially. But then we decided that I needed to get out of a job,
Yes.
and we decided to start a business. And this is right when
It
like
was right
the
before COVID.
virus
Yeah.
hit.
It was in the
Um,
news that people were getting sick.
yeah.
Yep.
So we started the business, and I remember you were adamant like we need to make money like the first month.
Yeah.
We did not make money the first month.
Hmm.
I think I don't remember how many months later, but it took a few months to actually earn income for my
Hmm.
business. And I remember feeling that pressure. So then I turned to budgeting
Yeah.
and realized when I was working my job, we were spending, and we weren't eating the healthiest at all, but we were spending like 650 a month, if
At
I'm not
least. Yeah,
mistaken.
I think it was about that much.
And then with me starting to budget and like focusing on it, we were able to drop it down to 250.
Yeah. It was amazing how much we changed and kind of definitely bettered ourselves because we had to.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, um I definitely noticed the difference that when we were married, my spending habits were definitely different compared to before we were married.
Yeah.
My savings account was the same exact amount going into college
Mhm.
as it was coming out.
Yeah, but
I spent all that money,
I think
and
it was
then
because I started being a stickler in a way, and especially when I started my business, because I had to be the bad guy to say no to a lot of things.
we had to learn that, like, it was we got, it was good that it was only like within a year, of getting in out of college and getting that new opportunity moving for us, because like it was really nice to go out and let's go have lunch, let's go to
Mhm.
this, and we went to a hockey game, and we went to we go to Costco and be like, oh, let's just try that, oh, let's try that,
Yeah, like
throw
we
everything in
filled
the
up
cart.
the cart.
And it was like we rented a movie like every week,
Hmm.
and we were definitely not spending money wisely.
No, we were having fun in a way.
Yeah, we let that lifestyle creep come up on us.
Yeah.
And when you when you started your business and we took a cut in our income and we had to
Mhm.
learn like, oh, we can't spend what we were. And then once like it sucked saying no because you just got a taste of what everybody really wants to just be able to go out and do everything they want to.
Yeah.
So we had that and then we had to give it up and it
Yep.
was hard. It was hard for both of us.
Yeah.
But once we started budgeting, like once you started budgeting and showing the numbers and we went through it and it was like, I can't believe we were spending 650 on food a month.
And it wasn't healthy food either.
Oh no, but you were also needing food like that
That's
for your
what
prior job. It
my job
required you to eat that.
required. Yeah.
So
Because
like,
I needed calories.
yeah, I didn't, and I was eating as much. It was great for me. So
Yeah.
that was a huge like that was a step into our budgeting world, and it kind of propelled us into this world of financial independence that we wanted to
Yeah.
pursue, and it led into our why.
Yes. And also like it made us learn we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket is like the
That's
saying.
like the normal
It's the
term.
saying for
Yeah,
everything. So we realize, oh, like if I lose a job or you lose a job, we have nothing.
yeah.
And we need to figure out how to prevent that.
Hmm.
So how do we prevent that is by starting a business for us.
Yes.
Or like I know I did a bunch of side hustles. Like I
Mhm.
drove for Amazon, I did Instacart.
Yeah.
I feel like I did some other
I
ones,
I
but I
feel
can't
like we did
remember.
another one.
But anyway,
Yeah.
like we realized we're not secure.
Yes.
We need something to be, oh, I lost my job, but
Mhm.
it's okay. We can be covered by this. Not, I lost my job. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, how are we paying our bills?
Yeah. Definitely. It's scary once we realize that, and it was kind of that did kind of bring push us into this whole world of stuff. And I got into real estate because we met someone at IKEA who
Yeah,
told me it, and
yeah.
then that was a part of another influence, and we were like learning like having multiple streams of income, as I love to say it, because you can have one little stream dry up but
Hmm.
your river is still flowing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think.
I think that's what was fascinating going back to that IKEA story
Mhm.
is she told like the person we like I don't remember much, but I do remember she was a teacher
Yeah, her and husband were a teacher.
and
They
they
got into
started
flipping.
flipping. And this is obviously during 2020, so
Yeah, it was right before COVID hit, before the shutdown.
yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to say that word on podcasts. I don't know how that works. But anyway, the we had that
The
thing
virus.
happen.
Yeah, yeah, we had the virus happen.
um so that definitely piqued your interest because of that and then realized, oh, that might be a good revenue stream. So then you went down that path, which ended up not being like it was a good path for learning,
Yes,
but financially it was not a good path.
made a lot of bad decisions, but it opened up that like aside from the financials, you're right, the learning part did kind of stream into business, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was a money podcast, and then it led into other personal finance realms that
Yeah.
all had the same exact thing that like in order for you to know or to get where you want to in life, you have to know what you're spending.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, like we were already playing around with budgeting, we were starting to use it more, we were tracking what we were doing and getting into that habit of no, we can't, we were putting stuff back, like taking it out of the cart,
Yeah.
and we were getting into that. And we like I think we kind of had you take on the budgeting role because you were.
I was the responsible one.
Yes,
Like I could say no to a pack of Oreos before you could.
that's very true. Yeah. um as a fun fact, our vows both included Oreos on both sides. It was fantastic.
We didn't what is it? We didn't talk about our vows beforehand either.
Yeah, no, we were separately wrote them, and then we got together at our wedding day and we both said it. We said like we will share Oreos together forever, and the Ordain was laughing. It was like there must be some serious like pieces of your life here with Oreos. I'm like, yes, it is.
Nabisco sponsor us.
Yeah. Nabisco, feel free to give a contact to me. I know some really good Oreo recipes. And I will gladly share them on this video and
Let's get
podcast.
back on budgeting.
So you're right. You were able to be the one that was able to say no first. And that did lead, to some conflict in the beginning with us.
Yes.
Getting used to the budgeting.
Yeah. I remember always feeling like the bad guy.
Yeah.
But I remember I would always try to give you what you wanted before I got what I wanted.
Yes, you're a very selfless person.
I remember you getting upset about that too.
I was like, oh, I feel like an asshole because I'm getting what I want. Because I'd be like, I put a pack of Oreos in, and I'd be like, no, we could take them out. And you're like, no, they stay in here because you want them. It's like, but what about you? And you're like, I don't need it. I'm like, well, I don't need the Oreos. And so like remembering kind of that and where we've gone into now is now it's essential. And like, I have younger family and we have younger like friends that we meet. And I think like the first thing we always tell them now is like, even our friends who are our age, when we talk to them, it's like the first thing is create a budget.
Yeah, it's the like obviously knowing your why first.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to start a business, you should still have a budget. And this is our opinion too, because one of the podcasts I was listening to, a higher up like money person said that he doesn't budget. He's never budgeted in his life. But that's what works for him.
Yeah.
For us, it didn't, because we had a hard time keeping track of what we were spending. And that kind of goes into what we were using, which obviously we didn't have money. We were broke.
Yeah.
But we knew how to create an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
So we created an Excel sheet, and I would make sure all the receipts were kept. And then, especially like if we paid with cash for anything.
Yep.
And then, like I tracked our monthly, like where our month started in our credit cards, where they ended it in that month for our credit cards. I remember it would take me a long time, but it saved us enough money to the point where, I didn't have to, work an extra shift for a side hustle.
Yeah.
It was, okay, you brought me the receipt, you brought the things, and that just worked for us. And I remember we're starting to do some more research on it, and then I heard about like the whole Dave Ramsey method where you just get cash.
Yeah.
And I remember we both talked about it, and we were both very hesitant having cash in our house.
Yeah.
And then also we wouldn't gain interest by it just sitting in our house, versus at least we'd get 0.05%.
Yeah. Or using the credit cards, there is points available. And those points really do add up.
They do add up, which they were able to pay sometimes for our bill. But we had to be smart about it. And that was something we're good at, is our credit cards, we were able to maintain the balance.
Yes, because we were tracking everything. So we knew when we used the card what that transaction went to.
Yes.
Before it even came.
We treated it like a debit.
Exactly. It was like the cash was coming out for us at the time. And it worked for us.
Yeah.
That is a method that worked for us, and then the points added up, and that was fantastic. We had a few years like where we have Costco membership, and we had a few years where the points we got from gas and everything would pay for the membership itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like that's just kind of
But
crazy.
It worked for us.
Yes.
We were able to maintain it. And that was something when we bought the rental, we weren't able to maintain it anymore because we had to use that.
Yep.
To do whatever for that.
Yes.
So we went in hardcore debt.
Yes.
And we essentially racked up a ton of debts.
Yep.
And we had to learn how to maintain that much debt because we've had, student loans and all that,
Yeah.
but we've never had that much debt in our life.
Yes.
So we had to kind of reinvent our whole wheel and make sure we understood the personal money and the business money because that's how we started.
Yeah.
But then they got intertwined together. So it made it very difficult to keep track and make sure we paid everything off. And it got very, very messy.
Yes. We had even more like spreadsheets and calculators together, trying to
Yeah.
writing it down on
And I think it
paper.
would take, when we got to that point, it would take me 5 hours to close out our budget at one point.
Yeah.
And I remember you being upset about it, but at the same time, I'm like, it's still saving us money.
Yeah.
And then we finally got to the point where I had to get a W-2 job.
Yeah.
So I could supplement faster income and I guess a regular pay rather than where businesses, you don't get a regular pay.
Unless you have a subscription service or a subscription product, your revenue is not steady.
Yes. And that's something we needed at the time was a steady income, not a variable income.
Yes.
And so we got to that.
Mm-hmm.
We made it happen. And then we got to the point where we were able to pay off the debt for technically we paid off the personal debt that the business racked up.
Yeah, the stuff that was
so we could start from zero.
Our normal normal everyday credit cards and stuff like that. We paid that off first.
Yeah. And so then it couldn't it wasn't mingling anymore.
Yeah.
And then we got to the point where we could afford a software for our budgeting. So it wouldn't take me 5 hours because
it was more organized and it had more features on like the debt tracking and stuff like that. And it was fantastic.
But also it came to what's my time's value, putting money to it.
That's what
it was starting to go up where I needed to pay for a budgeting software to go quicker.
Yes.
That 5 hours wasn't realistic anymore. I needed to do it now, kind of thing.
And I think we moved on from Excel to another software in between the one we paid for. That worked out for us for a little bit. It was on the phone. It was free.
It was free. It wasn't ideal for us though. It didn't have the features we wanted.
Yeah, I think if we didn't have business, it would have been fine. There's a lot of stuff that when I look at it like personal finance and budgeting that I think everybody should have a budget regardless if they're doing a business or not. But there is a huge difference between people who want to have a business, people who don't want to be business owners, and how they operate. And that free software, perfect for people who don't want to have a business.
Oh yeah,
it just tracks your personal finances very easily. Your liabilities, stuff like that.
And you can just enter it in for the free software, I think it was. But you just enter it in. So then in your mind, you keep track of what you're spending. And I think that's the big thing is when we swipe the card, we don't realize how much we're spending. Where, for example, if you're paying in real cash, you know what you're handing over and what you're going to lose. But when you swipe that card, you're like, I don't know. I paid. But I don't know what I paid. And then I noticed for us, when we really started budgeting, we would read the receipts and we would realize you didn't charge us right. This doesn't add up. This isn't correct.
Taken or your deals, we go take a picture of stuff when we go to customer service. Yeah. And we get a refund on it. That's when we started and
yeah. And one time we got a $56 refund.
Yeah.
Because it didn't enter in correctly. So that was our almost our 1 week's worth of food that we got back.
Yeah.
That would have if we didn't see that, it would have bitten us hard.
It would have been hard. Yeah. We would have only been able to get milk and bread the next week.
Yeah.
And we would have had would have been a little tighter.
Yeah.
And I do think with our budgeting and stuff like that, with having the multiple businesses we do and the budgeting, I mean, alone has saved us. It allows us to, we come up with the categories we're going to spend. And
Mm-hmm.
we come up with our goals and our dreams and ambitions and what we
Mm-hmm.
want to do. And we know these businesses are going to provide us that revenue. And as long as we stick with them and grow them, they're going to come back and pay us. And that's what we're going for. We're sacrificing now for that.
Mm-hmm.
And by budgeting, we're able to do that because we
Yeah.
would not be able to. I mean, we might not even be able to have a house if we didn't budget.
Yeah. We like
We,
because we were able to buy our house essentially because of budgeting.
yeah,
Because I was able to save up enough to set aside
yeah,
where we were essentially living on one mainstream income and a variable income.
yes. And I think, and it's just huge. And like, even people who don't want to have business, I mean, everybody has a goal, everybody
Yeah.
has something they want to do. But if they budget, they'll be able to get that goal faster.
Yeah. And but with the budget comes along sacrifices.
Yes, because you can't get the newest thing. I love video games,
Hmm.
and I don't even, I have the Xbox One, which I bought in 2015.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when I'll upgrade to the new Xbox, if I will, before
Yeah.
the new console gets released. Like it's a sacrifice that I want to make because I want my businesses to take off
Yeah.
and I want to put that money go into there. And that's kind of how
Yeah.
when we've learned the budget and we started tracking, then it is easier to take that stuff out of the cart because it's, do I put $10 towards buying this one item right now, or do I put $10 towards paying down debt or putting it into the business to make myself more?
Yeah.
And it was a snowball effect. It started off a little slow, a little hard,
Mhm.
and then it's easier now.
Yeah. We had to pay the consequences when we first started though,
Hmm.
because we wanted to go,
We moved
well,
to a
at that point we everything closed, but we wanted to have, like
go out and eat with
a
friends and
yeah, go out to or get fast food
yeah,
and get this special new food or special new clothing
yep,
that is not been pre-owned.
or try or get that watch.
Yeah, yeah, an accessory, or is
Yeah,
that
an
what they're called?
accessory. Yep.
Yeah. Um, but we were upset during that time. But now, since we've gone through that, it's a lot easier to be like, I don't need that Apple Watch. Like,
Like,
why would I want to feel vibration on my arm when I can barely read anything and then I just have to go to my phone anyway?
yeah, like I have to take
Why
my
do I need
phone,
that?
and like it's not like we're in school or we need to hide it either. So it's like people
Yeah.
don't care. So you just take out your phone and deal with it, and you save $800.
Yeah. But that's our way of thinking now.
Yes.
And I like still to this day, like I do want to get nice clothes, but it sounds funny, but I get like a rush almost when I find this perfect piece of clothing that still has the tag on it, so it's never been used before, and I'm getting it for $5.
Yeah.
Right. And then I see in the tag that someone paid $60 for this item.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I think I win, and I appreciate that person not wanting it
Yeah.
because it helped me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of funny because like we do kind of do what we can to stretch a dollar, and I know that's kind of how we both grew up. So it's not to us too, it's an easy it was kind of easy to make that sacrifice once we got the why
Hmm.
and we started budgeting and we got over the like hurdle of like, oh, we're not gonna be able to do all the things we want. But then it was everything we don't, spend goes to our why.
Hmm.
It was easy to kind of be like, well, we grew up with less.
Yeah.
So like
Like our parents still tried to give us a
they
lot,
gave us a
which
lot,
is
yes. But
like,
like,
for example, for me, I got to go to equine events and, have my own horse.
yeah,
And that, like, looking back, I'm like, I can't even afford that now.
Yeah.
So how did they afford it
Right.
when they were essentially in the same shoes that I was in right now?
Yeah.
And I, like, logically, I'm thinking now where then I was like, I want a new bridle. I want a new saddle.
Yeah. I
'Cause
wanted the latest video game every time I went out to
yeah,
the mall.
yeah, so they, like, we may have grew up poor, but at the same time, they gave us a lot that as a kid, I know I never thought of.
Yeah.
Now as an adult, I'm like, "Did how'd you budget? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
what are you doing I'm not
Right.
doing?"
Definitely. That's exactly. So like they did that stuff, and it's just hard because sometimes you're like, wow, like I wouldn't want to do that for just us, let alone if we had a kid or anything like that. So
If we had a kid, we'd probably be like, "Have everything,"
we
which
probably
I'm sure that's where how our parents thought.
that's probably like a little thing that we'll one day figure out too.
Yeah.
But for us right now, we're like,
Well,
no,
we have a dog, and I always want to get him
that's true.
dog toys when I'm at Costco. So
Yeah,
I
he's
guess I'm already in that stage where I'm like, here's the new toy, even though you don't need it.
he has a full stocking every Christmas compared to us. So we do kind of already do that where, his birthday comes around and we're like, here's a toy.
Yeah,
And so we make those sacrifices.
that's
Well,
the thing. But as a kid, like, I guess I got off topic there a little bit, but
mhm.
it's still, I don't know what our parents did for budgeting essentially, but they figured it out somehow.
Yeah,
However it
it
worked
works for
for
them.
them.
Yeah.
But their why was their kids in a
Yes.
way for budgeting ways.
Yeah. So I think that's it also stems on how growing up we saw that happen and we eventually we realized it and it kind of helped instill to us what our personal finance structure was then and how it evolved into what it is now. And
Hmm.
we learn, and that is where we are talking about budgeting, and we want to recommend budgeting to people because it is something where it's like, huh, if we knew this sooner,
Yeah.
hindsight is always a bitch. It's 2020, and it's
Hmm.
always something that's bad because if we knew everything, we would have bought Amazon stock at $5 and sold it at 2,000.
Yeah.
Everybody would, and so there's things like that. And looking back, it's just like, oh, if I knew this now, I
Hmm.
probably would have got out of college with a lot of savings, or we would have
Yeah.
been doing different things
Yeah.
too. So that's something that, like, I think even the people Dave Ramsey and with the Bigger Pockets Money and all the people they bring on and the books we read, they all had to find it out the hard way as well.
Yeah.
And then they're writing to try to warn people on how to do it.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of the successful people we hear in podcasts and stuff like that, and we read about
Yeah.
and we're around.
I
They have
know.
budgets as well.
One of the big things that we kind of read after our budgeting, but what really kind of made us start thinking about things too is when we read, I can't remember her last name, Rachel Money Honey.
Yes, Rachel Richard.
Okay.
Yep.
I remember when we both read that book and we're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then we also had another book with like Financial 101, which had a lot of pictures. So I'm like, okay, I understand this because I like picture books.
It did a nice like pie graphs and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it is nice to kind of see that because finance can and is boring. I'm a bookkeeper.
Well,
Finances are boring,
like I
but
do our bookkeeping and I enjoy that.
yeah.
That's in a way it's
But learning about finance is like
yeah.
before we got into trying to do our own finances for our why,
Hmm.
finances were boring.
Yeah. Well, I think we tried to budget when we were first started dating or when we like, even before we got married, I think.
Yeah.
So we set up an Excel sheet because
Mhm.
we're like, we'll try this.
Yeah.
And I think we did 1 month with half of our expenses, and then we we didn't do any more.
Yeah.
But when we really when we wanted the business to work out, we really started hitting budgeting hard. At least I did. I remember you weren't a huge fan of it because it was a lot of no, you can't have this. No, you can't have
It
this.
was restricting. And it
Yes.
was,
And then as we went down the line, it we were able to buy a house. So it's like, oh wow, like this
yeah.
is actually helping us. And then we
Mhm.
were able to get, the real estate going.
Yeah.
And granted, we didn't have all the money, but we had some saved up.
But I mean, the budgeting alone, when we went through those hard times, the budgeting kept the lights on. It kept the house above, like the
In a
roof above our
way,
head.
in a way, when, at the beginning of our podcast, like when we first started talking, we did say that we had to ask for help from friends and
Yeah.
family because we were at a point where our I thank goodness I was at home, but our water heater, it dumped all over the ground.
Yep.
All of it spilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I started walking and I'm like, why is this hot? Because at first I thought it was the wash machine. But it wasn't. Like it was warm water.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have ours on warm when we wash towels.
Yeah.
And that's what I was washing at the time.
Yeah.
And I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. And we didn't we just spent our money.
Yeah.
We do not have any emergency funds.
Yep.
We don't have any house savings. We have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So we, in my mind, I was like, we're not going to have water for a while.
Yeah.
But our friend came in and was like, I'll get it for you.
Yeah.
And I don't think our friend anticipated that we would pay them back. But it took us a while.
Yeah.
But we were able to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing is our friends and our family still were there to help us when we weren't financially smart.
Yeah.
So budgeting doesn't answer everything.
No. But it does make it like
It makes it easier.
It makes it easier because leading up to what happened before the water heater went out,
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't budget before then, we would have had even less.
Yes.
And then the recovery would have taken longer.
Yep.
And then, we right away we put some money in this emergency savings or something like that to happen.
Yeah.
If it was something else that broke or leaked, and then we were saving up to pay them back, which we did. And I think you're right. Like I don't think they anticipated, but it is something that we felt an obligation towards.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And it helps us kind of put money towards these emergencies that happen with our business.
Mm-hmm.
We have our personal finances, what we put towards there, and then we try to pay off bad debt.
Yeah.
And we kind of add, we have a retirements account. We're not going to be banking on that in our future. We've already discussed that we don't plan to retire off of retirement accounts. We plan to retire off of businesses. So it is where we're putting, we take money and we put it towards a business every month.
Yeah.
And we take money and put it towards paying off debt every month. Those are the two things we're trying to, because if we have less obligations, then we can put more money towards that. And that's not something that we ever thought of or would have done if it wasn't for these habits we created over time.
Yeah. I guess we should also clarify, we still have retirement accounts. We don't exclude that.
No, we have them.
But we either our companies match them.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense because
it's free money.
Yeah. Essentially they're giving you money to add to your retirement while you're adding money. Or also what we do is we just set aside, very, very small amount of money to put towards our own retirement fund just to be okay, well, we at least have a cushion when it happens. Is this cushion large? No, we probably could get 6 months if we're lucky.
But yeah,
But right now, like you were saying, we don't want all our eggs in one basket because I think both of us saw our grandparents, they like when they retired, they
Social
never
Security.
they never really got to retire.
Yeah,
They still had to work part-time or do something part-time to make ends meet.
yeah,
So we just anticipate that, well, we're just not going to retire because our grandparents never did.
yeah.
And they like our grandparents now, they kind of retired slash kind of not. It just
But when
they
like,
do what they had to do.
yeah, and we don't want to put retire like we don't want to rely on one
Hmm.
income, and that is essentially what it used to be. Is
Yeah,
you contributed to a retirement account for 40 years, 45 years, and then you lived on Social Security and you lived on 8% of your retirement account a year
yeah,
until you died.
yeah,
But neither one of us, like, that wasn't enough for our
yeah,
families. And so it's like, well, we can spend 40 years building that up, or we can spend 40 years building up businesses.
yeah. And it also goes along with a way in our mental health episode is we we don't want to work a W-2 forever. And that's us personally.
Yeah.
We want to do something we enjoy slash we kind of control in the sense, which is businesses, because we want to do what we love.
Yeah.
And that is our end goal because we love businesses.
It is a hobby. That's why, like, it's kind of a hobby. It's one of those things where we started coaching and we started bookkeeping for that reason. We can help people read financials and we can help them with business to show them
Mm-hmm.
what they could do to kind of either cut expenses or help them make the business better as a whole. And that's, I mean, we can sit with our friends that are in business and talk about that all the time. And, you're at a coffee shop for like 2 hours. You're like, well, I have to go, but like I'm having fun. Like
Yeah.
this is what I like to do.
Yeah.
And we went to college for that too, and so we know that there's benefits there. We liked the doing those well, we did those projects. We got grades on them. So it is something where it became a part of us. And it's something
Yeah.
we always look forward to. Like,
But that's who we are.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's how we created our budget is, well, we did want a house, but then we started realizing like we want businesses. Like
Yeah.
we want
We want cash.
different streams of revenue.
Yeah.
Like we don't need consistent paychecks. Like are consistent paychecks nice? Yes. But ultimately we wanted to ride that roller coaster, which made our budget go on a roller coaster with us.
Yeah. And like right now in the beginning, we got out of college, we're getting all these failures of business out of the way. So like it is best to have that steady income coming in. But we do plan on paying all of our debt off so that like if we don't have those obligations, we don't need to pull money from our businesses or we don't need to make as much per month
Mm-hmm.
to do what we want. So like if our businesses started generating enough that like we could, it would pay all of our bills and all of our expenses per month,
Mm-hmm.
and then our W-2s would just be gravy,
Yeah.
then it would be something where we might shift our budget and,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
just it goes along with what it is we want to do.
yeah,
Because what we wanted to do yesterday compared to today is
it's already
different.
different. We had a plan and it changed, and so
Yeah.
it's already different than what we were expecting.
So a budget is never perfect.
No,
And
it's personal finances because it's personal.
yeah,
And
exactly. Even if it's a business finance, it's the business's personal finance.
yeah, and that business is related to somebody. There's somebody who's ultimately getting the best benefit and the most benefit from that business. So for people who do want to have a business, that is something on when you make your budget, you have to also do. For instance, I'll let you answer this, but we have insurance, a personal, and we have business insurance. Now,
Mhm.
how do we budget for business insurance?
My business has to cover that.
Okay.
Now,
How do you budget for that then?
so
In the business budget.
if I'm making profits, then I allocate, how much, say I have to pay it off in March, for example. And it's annual. I have to know how much I'm paying so then I can break that up from how many months from now until March is and say
Let's say
it's
$120, so it's $10 a month.
okay, so $10 a month. That's what I have to allocate from like my business's revenue.
Yeah.
Now, for example, when I first started my business, I had to
Contribute.
I was going to say, please say the proper terminology.
You're
But I had to,
contributing to the business's
yes, I had to take money out of my pocket to put into the business
yes.
to make sure it could run efficiently.
It could operate and have be able to afford its own expenses, essentially. So
Yeah.
you budgeted personally, and you were able to take that money out of our personal budget and put it into a business, and then you took that business cash that you just took out of our personal cash, and you budgeted that to pay for the expenses that you knew were coming.
Yeah, I almost feel like we have to draw a diagram
Like
with.
sometimes I want to have an Expo board so I could just be like, I mean, we have a piece of paper, it might work, but it would be we're taking it from our personal buckets
Mhm.
and you're putting it into our business buckets.
Yeah,
And for the people who want to do business, that is something they're
especially
going to have
that's
to
a
do.
startup.
Yes, but I think any business almost
Yeah,
is
any
going to have it
business.
because like
It
we
doesn't
might,
matter if you're bootstrapped or not.
yeah,
You have to.
you're going to have legal expense. You know, there's always this hidden
Yeah,
cost. Even I
yeah,
think
that no one
starting a
talks about.
yes, I think starting a business in Colorado is $100 for registration. Uh,
Um,
I can't remember.
I
I know
think,
the annual fee is $10.
yeah, I think it's closer to $50.
Okay.
But obviously each state is so
Each state
different
is different, yes.
that I can't give you an answer.
No, you'd have to log on to your Secretary of State's website and fill out that information to find out.
Yeah,
Maybe just a quick Google search. But
because
that even if you start that business and somebody's going to give you money, you're probably going to have to pull money out to start that business so that they can give you the money.
mhm.
And you're going to have to put it into a bank account. So like you need to have cash for your business and be ready for those unexpected
Yeah,
things. You might not know what they are, but just to have in a bucket of unexpected business expenses.
yeah. And like even when you start a bank account, some bank accounts require a minimum. So you have to anticipate that minimum amount before even starting everything too.
Yeah.
And once you go along the line, obviously, your business should start paying for itself. And that's something, you know, my business started up as a bootstrap.
Yeah.
And I made no money. I contributed.
Yes.
And now my business can at least be self-sufficient.
Yes. For those who don't know, bootstrapping is a business term in which you contribute and you kind of start everything up by your own your own
It's
money.
essentially very like
Very little startup cost, very
yeah,
little. You're gonna have very little progress,
there's
and it's gonna
yeah,
take a while
yeah,
to get it going
little
because it's
expenses,
yeah,
little income.
yeah. You're not putting a whole lot into it, but what you are putting into it is out of your personal budget, and it's not a loan, not equity that somebody else that you partner with. It's you take your own money from something else and you put it into this business to start it up on its own
Yeah,
and carry itself that way.
yeah,
That would be what bootstrapping is, and that's what we did for Benner Stride. Is
yeah.
we took what we made on the side or what we had left over after our personal, and we started the business with that money
Yeah,
and built it up.
yeah. And maybe you can go into more of our real estate business, but we did not do bootstrap.
We went a different route, and
Yeah,
what we did is, for Benner Stride being more of a service-based business, it is easier to do bootstrapping. The barrier to entry is cheaper. It's cheaper, it's lower, but it is more saturated, so it does take longer to build up. What with real estate, it is a very debt heavy industry. And so what we did is we went out, found a property that looked like we could add value to it. So we took out lots of debt right away to get it.
Method.
Yes, the Burr method, coined by David Green, is buy, rent, rehab, refinance, and repeat. So we bought this. The value of it was low. It needed work. We thought it only needed a certain amount. Once it's a whole new episode, but there was a lot more work that needed to be done. We weren't anticipating, didn't know about.
Yeah, and we didn't budget.
We didn't budget, but we also didn't know.
Yeah.
And if we knew, we would have walked away much likely.
But at the end of the day, we still weren't prepared budget wise long term, because we wanted, say, a property.
Yep.
And we were trying to do the methods of like people would help us finance it.
Yeah,
that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so we found an alternative that was expensive.
Yes.
But we still wanted to do it.
Our plan was to take that. It would be a little expensive in the beginning, but our plan and our goal was to refinance to get out of that.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen, and we were stuck with that big high expense debt. And that is
on top of more debt.
Yes, correct. So we had lots of unanticipated debt.
Yeah.
To purchase this.
And when I'm saying like we didn't plan for this, we still should have had buildup of liquidated cash.
Yes.
And we didn't have that. Correct. We had a minimal amount. And that's something budgeting wise we didn't do correctly going into a business like this.
Yes.
And we didn't do our research for budgeting purposes. But still, at the end of the day, we got through it. We made it happen. Yes. So anything's kind of possible as long as you know what you want to do. And we wanted to get out of debt. Yes. So like we're not out of debt. No. But we're making strides forward at least. But
we've obviously personal finance wise, we've done very good with it this year. Compared to what was going on. Some would
say differently, but
anyways, with that, that does relate to our other episodes of failure and of mindset. And that just shows that like budgeting and is never like a one and done thing. It's ever evolving, and we've tried we've had Excel, the free software, and then the new software we pay for.
Yeah.
And that kind of has grown with us. We've tried just trial and error. We failed, and we'll try a different way, and we find what works for us.
Well, the Excel did work for us,
but it just took time. And once we got stuff going, we learned the value of our hour, how much we're worth an hour. Then it wasn't worth it anymore. We would be losing more money than if we bought something that would take away some of those hours so that we can make more money in those hours. So now it was worth buying that software for us because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I think a good recap is, personal finance is personal, but I think everybody needs to have a budget, regardless of what their goals is. If it's business, if you just don't want to have a business, you just want to have a budget, and you have goals, maybe you want to retire early, or you do want to have a big house, how much do you need to make? You need to know how all those expenses and what you can do to pay it off quicker, those type of things. So having goals with the budget. And I don't really think you need a budget if you don't have goals, because what would you be budgeting for if you didn't have goals?
There's some wealthy people that, like, for example, a podcast that I listen to, he's the CEO and he's never budgeted a day in his life.
Yeah. I I wish that was not a rare occurrence, but could you
But that's
imagine?
what worked for him.
Yeah, that definitely.
And for us, it didn't work. We tried it and we ended up spending our money.
Yeah.
So, in a way, if it works to not budget for you and you feel happy doing it,
Then do it.
do the thing.
Yeah.
Like no one's telling you what to do.
Exactly.
But for us, we like the budget.
Yeah.
And we would recommend it to people, but we're like it's not fair to force it on someone.
No, not at all.
Do what you want, man.
Like we suggest it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to make somebody sit down and write out their expenses unless they want us to help coach them on anything, and then they can go to our website for that. But I do think that the personal budget for the people who want to have a business has to be done first.
It is helpful. It
And
shows you what you spend your money on.
Yeah, and then once you start tracking that and you make those decisions, then it is like we were saying, bootstrapping or whatever, you're going to have your own cash to do a business.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, how quickly do you want to get to that goal?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to buy that $50 watch, or do you want to put $50 towards your business?
Yeah.
And it might bring $75 back. So then
it's a gamble in a way.
it is a gamble. It is risky. I
Yeah.
think everything is risky in its own way, and having a business is very risky. We've experienced that ourselves,
Yeah.
and we keep going even though it is very risky and sometimes very stressful.
Yeah, but
But
that's our choice.
yes, and along with having a budget being a choice, having those goals that you have, that is where I think a budget is probably the most helpful. Is just
Yeah.
tracking the ability to get to those goals.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Is there something you would recommend for someone who watches this, listens, and is like, okay, I'm ready to do a budget. What's my next step?
It's one of those things, just start tracking.
Yeah,
like I for us, we just started tracking on Excel. And then we started making categories.
Yep.
Which then we started allocating, okay, we spend this much on this and this much on this. So then we started seeing, where is all our money going to?
We started seeing trends as we started
And how can
categorizing it.
how can we cut costs in that category?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, starting off, you need to know your why, like you were saying. But to start the budget, I think you just need to start creating a very plain Jane, simple Excel sheet, or find a free software that works for you, and then just start tracking.
Yeah.
Like at least do a month's worth. The first month is going to be the hardest because it sucks tracking. And you get to the point where you hate tracking so much that you stop spending money so you don't have to track.
Yeah, it does, because you hate putting in that. I mean, I know the first month we budgeted, I think I hated it the most because I was like, I hate how much I spend. Like I hate seeing that number because I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Like I feel so bad doing that. I'm like I spent all that money on that stuff. That's it. So it did have a realization effect on me. Like, wow, I need to track this more.
Yeah.
And like then people, and then we had I think we did month to month, and we were able to start like clicking through tabs and seeing that. Then you do see those trends.
Yeah.
And like you said, then you start making decisions based on stuff you see, like where can I cut? Once you start seeing those trends, you can start putting a budget to yourself. So I think that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment, reach out to us. We are on bennerstride.com. We're on Instagram at bennerstride, Facebook at bennerstride.
And if we don't answer, it's because
our app isn't working, or
well, I wouldn't say that because I don't hardly get on social media.
I check it as much as I see the notifications that actually pop up on my screen. So
That's more than I do. I see the number like 1 or 2 on
Mhm.
the social app, and I'm just like, it's a pretty number.
It's a
I'm gonna let it add. Let's
well,
see what number I can get to.
and well, yes. So the best way to get a hold of us is our website where we have a contact page. And
I think our dog found a squirrel or something because I just heard him running out there.
oh man, we better wrap this up.
Yep.
The last thing I think we want to leave everybody with is we would love to start doing questions on here from our viewers and listeners. And so if you have any questions that you would like us to answer or give our opinion on, please feel free to
And if
get.
it's about the topics we've done before on previous podcasts or even this podcast alone, if you want us to go into detail more, we'll gladly do that. Now, we won't go into personal detail
Mhm.
because that's personal.
Yep.
But our opinions, like you were saying, we'll be happy to go into more detail.
Yeah.
But you just gotta let us know your questions.
I think that would also help lead us to more beneficial topics on what we can discuss as well. Like if there's something we're reoccurringly seeing, maybe that is something we can dive more into and bring those questions up to when we answer them here. We could bring that exact question, answer that along with the rest of our subjects we're talking about. So
yeah, hopefully this wasn't too long for you guys, but obviously I enjoy talking about budget.
she is the budget freak.
I'm the budget queen. Bye, guys. Bye.